The sky above the planet was red and full of smoke. The ground was cracked, black, and covered in ashes. Corporal Jace Nolan moved carefully through the remains of the alien outpost, holding his rifle low, eyes scanning every shadow. His boots crunched over burnt metal and shattered bones. His unit had received a distress signal, but when they arrived, there was nothing left. Just fire, silence, and death. Jace's partner, Sergeant Keller, spoke through the comm. Nothing alive. Let's move out. But Jace wasn't sure. Something felt off. The signal that shouldn't exist. Wait, Jace said. I'm picking up a weak life reading. Still inside the bunker. Keller groaned. The place is cooked. Probably a broken sensor. Let's go. But Jace didn't listen. He moved deeper into the smoking ruins, passing collapsed walls and fallen weapons. And then he heard it. A faint breath. A whisper of life. He pushed aside a broken steel panel and stepped into a half-destroyed chamber. There, barely alive, lay a figure. The scared survivor. It was a woman. Not human. Alien. Her body was burned. Her skin, once smooth and silver, was now blackened on one side. One of her eyes was swollen shut. The other glowed faintly and watched him without fear. Jace raised his weapon, just in case, but the alien didn't move, didn't fight. She only blinked, slowly. Then, in a weak, broken voice, she spoke. You're the first one who didn't turn away. A choice. Jace hesitated. He should have called it in. Protocol said to report enemy survivors. Leave them, especially alien soldiers. But he didn't move. He looked at her, broken, half-buried, and breathing with pain, and something hit him in the chest. She wasn't dangerous. She was abandoned, and someone had left her here to die. The argument. Jace carried her out of the rubble, one arm under her back. She was light. Too light. Keller saw him and shouted, "What are you doing? That's an enemy." "She's not a threat," Jace said, laying her down near the med shuttle. "She's alien," Keller barked. "You saw what they did to Outpost 9. Jace stood between him and the woman. "She's alive. That's enough for me." The other soldiers muttered, unsure. One said, "She won't survive the night anyway. Why waste the med supplies?" But Jace ignored them. He placed a med seal over her wounds and gently wrapped a blanket around her shoulders. Her name. As the shuttle lifted off, the woman's eyes opened again. Jace leaned in. "Do you have a name?" She paused, her voice barely a whisper. "Rilea." He nodded. "I'm Jace. You're safe now." Her hand twitched slightly, then dropped. The medbot beeped softly. She was stable, for now. Back at the human base. 2 hours later, the shuttle landed at Base 17, one of the last human strongholds on the planet. The med team rushed her to the quarantine wing. Jace followed, ignoring the glares of the officers and soldiers. Word spread fast. She brought one of them back. Why's he protecting her? She's one of the enemy. They all are. The warning. Inside the medical room, Riley arrested. Machines kept her alive. Jace sat beside her bed, arms crossed. "I don't care what they say," he told her quietly. "I saw it in your eyes. You didn't want this war either." Suddenly, her eyes opened again. Just one. She turned her head slowly toward him. "There's a reason. They left me behind." Jace leaned in. "What reason?" She didn't answer. She just stared at the ceiling and whispered, "They're hiding something. My scars. Hide more than pain." The medical wing was quiet. Cold lights buzzed above. And outside the glass wall, every soldier stared like she didn't belong. Because to them, she didn't. Rilea, the scared alien woman, was breathing, but not welcome. Whispers behind glass. Why is she still alive? She's one of them. What if it's a trap? Jace stood outside her room, arms crossed, jaw tight. He had been trained to follow orders. But his gut told him something else. Relaya wasn't an enemy. She was a message. And no one wanted to hear it. She wakes again. 2 days later, she opened her eyes. Jace was there, sitting by her bed. She blinked slowly. "You stayed." "I gave my word," he replied. She tried to sit up but winced in pain. Her skin, still burned, was covered in protective film. But the scars were clear. One long mark down her jaw, one over her chest. Not random. Clean. Precise. "Who did this to you?" Jace asked. Relaya looked away. "My own kind," she whispered. A hidden room. Later, Jace met with the base commander. "You're wasting time," the man barked. "She's a liability." "She has information," Jace replied. She said her scars hide more than pain. The commander's eyes narrowed. Sometimes scars are just scars. But Jace didn't believe that. Not anymore. The language barrier breaks. That night, Jace brought a translator device to Relaya's room. She struggled to speak human language, but the translator helped. Her voice was soft, broken, but clear. "They called me traitor," she said. "They said I saw too much." Jace leaned forward. "What did you see?" Relaya closed her eyes. "A plan. A deal. Not with us. With your people." Jace froze. "What kind of deal?" "They gave names. Coordinates. Then they turned on me. A secret no one wants." Jace recorded her words. He brought them to his commanding officer. But when he returned the next morning, the recording was gone. The file had been wiped. No logs, no trace, and Relaya's room, locked. 2 guards outside. "She's under containment," one said. "Higher command orders." Jace clenched his fists. She warned me this would happen. The human who believed her. That night, Jace unlocked the door with a stolen passcode. Relaya was sitting on the floor in the corner of the room. She looked up at him quietly. "They don't want the truth," she said. Jace nodded. "I know." "Then why are you here?" she asked. He knelt beside her. "Because I do." She stared at him, silent, unreadable. Then, for the first time, she reached out and touched his hand. Her fingers were cold, but her grip was steady. The scar that speaks. Jace looked at the mark on her chest again. Up close, he saw it differently now. Not just a scar, but a symbol, etched under the skin, hidden by the burn. He took a scanner and ran it over the scar. A shape appeared on his tablet. A coded map, with one word under it, silencer. "What does this mean?" Jace asked. Relaya's eyes darkened. "It means we were never enemies." The scar wasn't just a wound. It was a message burned deep into Relaya's skin, buried beneath pain. And now, Corporal Jace Nolan held the proof. The map hidden in flesh. The scanner's display glowed in the dim mid-bay. The scar revealed a strange curved design. Half map, half code. Jace zoomed in. At the edge of the scar's pattern, a human symbol appeared. Project Silencer. Level. Classified. Access. Denied. Jace's heart skipped. "That's a Black Ops code. Earth Command." Relaya spoke slowly, her voice low. "They told my people they wanted peace, but they lied. They gave us names. Targets. I found out too late." Jace whispered. "And they branded you to silence you." Relaya nodded. Truth hurts both sides. Searching the forbidden files, Jace returned to the barracks that night and accessed a restricted database using his old security clearance. He typed the name. Project Silencer. Access denied. Level too high. Even for him. But a hidden subfolder blinked open. Half corrupted, but still alive. Inside, one line chilled his blood. Relia. Asset neutralized. Status. Burned. No recovery expected. They had marked her as dead. They never expected her to survive. The one who knows. Jace needed answers, and he knew who to ask. Sergeant Keller. His old squadmate. Loyal, but always quiet when it came to orders from above. They met in the hangar under the cover of darkness. Keller, Jace said, "Did you know about Project Silencer?" Keller's face changed. "I didn't see anything," he said flatly. "And neither should you." "Keller, they lied to everyone. She's not the enemy. She's the witness." Keller grabbed his shoulder. "Then why do you think they branded her like that?" The silent warning. Later that night, Jace returned to Relia. She was sitting upright, stronger now. "I'm getting you out of here," he said, "but we need to go soon." Relia looked tired. "You will lose everything." Jace smiled. "I'd rather lose everything than help hide the truth." Suddenly, an alert flashed on the medroom screen. Security override engaged. Subject: Relia. Transfer to Black Wing. Immediate. Jace backed away. "They're moving you, probably to kill you for real this time." Relia whispered, "Then we must move first." A secret in the skin. Before they escaped, Relia revealed something else. "There's more." She pulled back her sleeve, revealing a second, smaller scar near her wrist. Another symbol. Another code. Jace scanned it, and a location appeared. An old alien research station, long abandoned. "What's there?" Jace asked. Relia's voice was calm. "Proof that the war was built on lies. Not just mine. Yours too." The decision. Jace looked at the data, then at Relia. "No one's going to believe us unless we show them what's out there." She nodded. "I will go. But only if you're sure." Jace gripped his rifle. "I chose you when everyone else turned away. I'm not stopping now." The base looked quiet from the outside. But inside, danger was awake. The moment Corporal Jace Nolan downloaded the second location from Rilia's scars, someone began tracking him. And they weren't wearing a uniform. Orders in the shadows. In a locked room deep inside Command Tower, a private message played. "Asset Relia is active. Project Silencer is exposed. Terminate before she reaches the station. Eliminate the human if needed." The officer didn't blink. He loaded a weapon coated in dark crystal, silent, deadly, and began to walk toward the medbay. The escape plan. Jace and Relia moved quickly. They had one goal: steal a recon ship and fly to the coordinates hidden in her scars. The old research station might hold the final piece of truth, the one that could end the lies. But time was short. The base was already shifting. Security checks. Closed halls. The feeling of eyes everywhere. The attack. As they crossed the lower hall, Relia suddenly froze. She turned sharply. Behind. Jace spun just in time. The assassin lunged from the shadows. A masked figure, dressed like a tech worker, held a black blade aimed straight for Relia's chest. Jace fired. The bolt hit the assassin's shoulder, but they kept moving. Relia ducked, sweeping the attacker's legs. Jace tackled him hard, slamming the figure into a wall. The mask cracked, revealing the human face. A soldier Jace once trained with. A shocking confession. Jace held his blaster to the man's head. "Why? Why her?" The man laughed bitterly. "You think this is about her? She's just the first. If you knew what's in that station, what she's hiding, you'd kill her yourself." Jace punched him. "She's not hiding anything. She's survived everything." The assassin hissed. "Exactly. That's what scares them." Before Jace could ask more, the man bit down. A poisoned tooth. Dead in seconds. Nowhere is safe. Jace and Relia ran through the side passageways, alarms now starting to flash red. They reached the shuttle bay. Relia clutched her side, still healing. You should go alone, she said. They won't chase you. Jace helped her into the ship. You were marked for death by your own people. Now mine want the same. He looked at her and said firmly, We're not alone anymore. The launch. As the shuttle lifted off, 2 fighter drones locked onto them. Relia sat at the gun controls, hands shaking but eyes focused. She fired once. The drones exploded in the sky. Jace stared at her. You said you weren't a soldier. I wasn't, she replied. But scars teach you fast. A moment of quiet. Above the clouds, the stars opened up. For a moment, it was quiet, peaceful. Relia looked at her reflection in the glass, her scared face, her tired eyes. Jace spoke softly. I don't see your scars anymore. She turned to him, voice low. That's because you're the only one who ever looked past them. A new destination. The ship's computer pinged. They were close to the station. An old name flashed on the screen. Site Echo Zeta. Memory core active. Relia whispered, That's where they erased everything. Where I was changed. Jace nodded. Then we're going to get it all back. The stars outside were quiet. But the station ahead was not. Echo Zeta. Once a research base shared by both humans and Relia's kind. Now silent. Broken. Floating near a dead moon, surrounded by debris and forgotten history. Inside it was truth. A place left to rot. As the ship docked, lights flickered weakly from inside the station. The airlock groaned open. Jace and Relia stepped into the ruins with weapons ready and hearts pounding. It was cold. Dusty. Echoing with old sounds. Broken screens still blinked. Old messages looped silently on the walls. Experiment 3A. Failure. Do not transfer subject to memory core without clearance. Warning. Security lockdown in effect. Relia remembers. Relia walked ahead of Jace, slowly. Her steps grew hesitant. I know this place, she said. I was brought here as a child. Jace watched her closely. What happened here? Relia touched the wall. They tried to make peace by creating weapons no one would question. I wasn't born a soldier. They made me into one. Jace stepped beside her. But they didn't break you. Relia shook her head. They'd broke themselves. The memory core. They found it deep inside the station. A sealed chamber with a glowing floor and a machine at the center. The memory core, a living data bank built with alien tech and human eye. Jace activated it. A soft voice spoke. Subject Relia. Welcome back. Final memory sequence available. Warning. Viewing will trigger emergency beacon. Jace looked at her. You sure? Relia nodded. I came this far. I want to remember. What she was never meant to know. The core projected a hologram. It showed young Relia, frightened and strapped to a metal table. Humans and aliens in white coats argued. Her mind is too sensitive. If she remembers, she'll be a danger to both sides. Erase everything. Give her a scar to keep others away. Then, the screen went black. The truth revealed. The next file opened. A private conversation. We started the war to control the trade routes. Not because of any threat. Relida's people were ready for peace. We just weren't. So what do we do with her? Erase her. Call her a traitor. Leave her behind. Jace clenched his fists. They used you. Relia stood silently, eyes wet but focused. And then they feared I'd survive. The alarms begin. Suddenly, the room turned red. Emergency beacon activated. Incoming signal detected. Ships approaching. They're coming, Jace said. We need to leave. Now. Relia turned to the console. Not yet. She uploaded the full memory logs into a signal pod. It'll send everything to every system. Public, military, civilian. Jace stared. You're about to start a fire no one can put out. She looked at him, then let it burn. escaped through fire. Explosions rocked the station. Enemy ships were already docking. Jace and Rilia ran through collapsing halls, chased by fire, smoke, and echoing footsteps. They reached their ship just in time. As the docking bay exploded behind them, the ship launched, cutting through flame and darkness. The broadcast begins. From orbit, the signal pod deployed. Across planets, screens lit up. A scared child, crying as her mind was erased. Officers lying. Commanders starting a war for profit. The alien girl left behind. And finally, Relia's voice. I survived the lie. And now, the truth survives me. The stars were no longer silent. They echoed with her voice. Every screen, every colony, every species. Across the galaxy, the truth was finally heard. And it began with 5 words. My name is Rilia. I remember. The galaxy reacts. On Earth, civilians gathered in shock, watching the memory logs Rilia released. Experiments. Lies. A child scared not by war, but by betrayal. In Zarnak cities, warriors laid down their weapons. She was one of us, they whispered. But we left her behind. And in the shadows of space, those in power were afraid. The man behind it all. On a hidden command ship, a human general crushed a glass in his hand. She wasn't supposed to survive. I want her silenced. Permanently. His fleet began to move, fast, and without warning. Inside the storm, Jace and Rilia hid in a neutral system, orbiting a quiet moon. They watched the signals flood in. Messages, reactions, support, but also threats. You will burn for what you've done. You destroyed everything we built. You're not a hero. You're a weapon. Rilia sat quietly, her hand over the scar that started it all. I didn't want to be seen, she whispered. I just didn't want to be erased. The offer. A message came from an alliance of outer world leaders. If you testify before the Galactic Tribunal, we will protect you. The people believe you. But the Council must too. Rilia looked at Jace. This isn't over. He nodded. It won't be until they hear you in person. The ambush. Their ship jumped toward the Tribunal station, but it was trapped. 3 war cruisers surrounded them. Missiles locked. Weapons hot. This is Commander Rice of Earth Command. You will power down your ship and turn over subject Rilia. Jace looked at her. We can't outrun them. Rilia stepped forward. We don't have to. The last broadcast begins. She opened the communications array, live and unlocked. Millions were watching. She stood before the screen, scared and steady. They want to kill me for remembering. But they cannot kill the truth. You can shoot my ship. You can silence my voice. But now the galaxy knows. It was never a war. It was fear. And I was just the first to be thrown away. She closed her eyes. Do what you came to do. The unexpected twist. But before the enemy fired, a fleet of ships arrived. Zarnak vessels, independent colonies, even some human ships bearing rebel flags. The transmission continued. Touch her, and you start a war you can't win. Commander Rice hesitated. She's just one voice, he muttered. But it was too late. One voice had become many. The stand that changed everything. The tribunal sent its own fleet to protect her passage. And for the first time in decades, the guns were lowered. Rilia turned to Jace. You believed in me when I didn't believe in myself. He replied quietly. You made them all believe. The grand hall of the Galactic Tribunal was silent. At its center stood a raised platform, surrounded by delegates from across the galaxy, human, alien, machine-born, and more. And standing there, alone but unshaken, was the one they once tried to erase. Rilia. Her scared face was visible to all. She didn't hide it. Not anymore. The final testimony. The lights dimmed. The tribunal chair spoke. You stand accused of nothing. But your truth has accused many. Why come here, knowing your enemies sit in this very room? Relia looked at the crowd. Her voice, though soft, carried through the chamber. Because truth without courage is just silence. Because peace doesn't come from power, but from those who survive it. And because no one, no child, no soldier, should be burned and buried for the comfort of liars. She paused. Then she said, I don't want revenge. I want memory. I want my story to be the last one that starts with a scar and ends with a war. The vote. The tribunal took the vote. Screens lit up one by one. Justice for Relia. Approved. Project Silencier. Exposed and declassified. Human commander race. Arrested for war crimes. Treaty proposal. Accepted. Jace watches it all. In the crowd, Jace Nolan stood tall. He had no rank now, no uniform, but everyone knew who he was. The human who chose the scared alien woman everyone else rejected. Her final words. Relia walked out to the balcony, where millions watched from every system. She raised her hand. They gave me scars to keep others away. But one human stepped closer. That choice changed everything. She smiled gently, voice trembling with emotion. Let the next war be a war against fear. Let the next soldier be one who chooses mercy. Let this galaxy remember not my pain, but what we did with it. 1 year later, in a small outpost on a green world, children listened to a storyteller. An old recording played. She was burned and broken, but she became the voice that ended silence. A girl raised her hand. Is she still alive? The elder smiled. Relia? Oh yes. She's out there, still helping, still walking worlds that once turned her away. Final scene. A distant ship soared across a quiet sky. Inside, Relia and Jace stood together at the bridge. No titles, no medals, just two people, healed, together, and free. Where to next? Jace asked. Relia stared at the stars. Wherever someone needs to be seen. And with that, they vanished into the light. The end.